Huntington Town Council meeting to order. So please stand, pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prior to our open session, there was an executive session. I recused myself, so Mr. Stone.
There was a vote taken in the executive session to appoint Gordon, the liaison from the council, to deal with a resident, Bob Schultz, with a well issue. So we're going to try to appoint Gordon so that he can go talk to him and work it out. And the vote was 4-0, 1 accused.
Thank you. Public comment? Oh, Cheryl Ford. Thank you.
I just wanted to take a minute and to commend our new EMA director, Heidi Powell. Wow, that was Heidi Rogers for the exemplary and over-the-top job that she did in these past 2 storms, keeping everybody informed. I thought you were great.
Thank you.
And I think it was really appreciated by everybody. But I know you didn't work alone, and I know that the police were involved, and all of the volunteers from the fire departments.
And our new DPW director.
And DPW director, Bob Law. I just want to thank you. I think you guys did a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Great job.
That our new DPW director went from the frying pan right into the fire. He actually has exceeded any expectations that I thought were going to come out, and he's doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
I can check off because I had that to say too. So, but I do want to add one other person. Our electrical inspector has been going to houses that lost power because they've been pulled off, and has been doing a great job with that. He is learning to cycle. I found out he's going to several homes so right away so people can get their power turned on by National Grid. So.
And I think that was in conjunction with the EMA.
Yes, I'm sure. So thank you. Moving on, we have the minutes from February 22nd.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from February 22nd, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to minutes from January 30th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from January 30th, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 34.
Make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 34 in the amount of $36,730.28.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to payroll warrant number 35.
Make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 35 in the amount of $36,424.63.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to general warrant number 17.
Make a motion to accept general warrant number 17 in the amount of $90,178.12.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to old business, status of Route 94 Captain Henry R. Phillips Recreation Fields.
I've got a little bit to bring forward, but it's going to be more information coming down, but I'd like to present some stuff just to put it in your thinking caps to figure out if we might want to stop thinking about what might be going on. We went down, we shot some grades. The ball field, we explained before, last time it dropped, I home plate by about close to 2 feet with settling. We believe it's done. But when we were looking at it, Bob Law actually scaled out the prints and went a little bit further. The left outfield which is you're passing it, would be on, if you're facing the ball field from the street, is your right side. That is going to take considerable more amount of fill as it drops off several feet, 6, 7, 8 feet, and then you're going to have a 3-to-1 slope, and then a walking track trail that's going to be there. So he's going to have the engineers come out and scape all pertinent corners of the ball field, right field, home plate, left field, so we can calculate how much more fill is actually going to be needed in addition to handling the settling problem. With that being said, when that's done, it's going to have to be compacted and lifts and brought up the proper way. I believe we have a $300,000 grant.
I think it's 4. I think Kelly and
Is
I
it?
looked at it. Yeah, it's 4. It's
Okay,
4.
I heard 3, 4.
I had thought 3 too,
So
then we
with
checked it.
4, it's a little bit easier to possibly be able to address it. We got to stop thinking about, once we start spending that money, if the bids start coming in, and they're going to be in excess, if they are in excess of the 400,000, you're going to want to have to figure out, I don't know what we have in the LUO funds, the division funds at,
we used the majority of it.
all right, that's going towards that project. So here's the thoughts. Yeah. Here's the thoughts. Now, I'm always trying to think ahead. I'm not saying that the ball field can't be finished completely, but you've got to do the drainage, the ball field, and all the other issues that come with the ball field, the parking lot, all that has to be done. My concern is this, with the additional fill needed and the additional work, and then the fence has got to go up, if that exceeds the 400,000, we've got to stop thinking, you're spending a $400,000 grant, the state is going to want to see kids playing on a ball field. So we need to start, if the bid comes in that it's going to be substantial more to finish that, we got to start figuring out, if you use the 400,000, how you're going to finish it. Several things to think about. That account, what money's left in it, will that get us the rest of the way? If you decide to do it, you may have to go out to a bond to finish it. These are just things you have to think about. And if you're going to go out to a bond to finish that, you're not just going to finish the ball field. You need to obviously finish the whole park, which is the soccer field and everything else, which isn't that much more. So these are just things I want you to think about as we figure out what it's going to cost for the fill, and we send an RFP out. It may be enough to get it done in that 400,000. If it is, I think it's going to be close, but I really think it may be more. So what I'm trying to stress here is, before you start spending the 400,000, you need to think wisely, because once you start spending that money, they're going to want to see kids playing in the field. So you need to put some forethought into this of what's going on. So that's all I have to bring forward this time until we get the stakes done and we can estimate the amount of fill. We're obviously going to need large amounts of loam, because the loam was not stripped and piled up. The loam was buried in the backfilling process. So that's additional that you'll have to see. You know, you've got loam, you've got parking lot, you've got paving, you've got fencing, now you've got fill to get it to where it's going to be. So don't shoot the messenger.
I'm not.
All right, no, I'm just trying to get everybody. No.
I have a question though, two. Who's writing the RFP?
I don't know. We've got to figure out how many yards we're going to need before the RFP goes out. We've got to get more information that'll be needed in the RFP. I think
Make sure that
the original RFP that went out, and then we had to wait for the settling, I think we can build on that, because some things that were in there that weren't in there should have been in there, like the fence and the gate, and that was the issue that the guy that bid on it, the only one bidder that bid on it, one was got awarded until we changed things, that certain things were on there he had to absorb that should have been on there, that he was told after the fact. So we can certainly build off of that discussion.
Okay, and then how about, we want to make sure our performance bond is in.
Absolutely.
That was an issue in the past.
Yep.
And also, was any consideration given, do you remember that day that Senator Chippendale? He was here, representative. He was here and he gave that presentation about the Little League versus the softball
The
field.
field evidently is not large enough, is what my understanding is.
Right.
Any kids over the age of 12 are in a different size field, and that field will not accommodate them. It's identical to the one at Woody Loudon in size. And the official Little League kids, there's a further distance from home plate to the pitcher,
And
But
so,
there's no way to work that, because you
The
remember
property-
everybody was really interested in that presentation, saying that there's already an abundance of Little League fields, but there's not enough softball fields.
right, and we had gone out to the state to see if we could flip phase 1 with phase 2.
Right.
And what happened was they said, we don't have a problem with you doing that, but you have to reapply from the very beginning.
Okay.
So we would advise you to finish phase 1 before we went to phase 2 would have been easier, we would have been playing soccer kids there already by now.
Okay.
But because of that, it was too tenuous with the plan that we all do, we're stuck with phase 1, so,
And so you
Juliana
still
had
with
checked into
the
that,
Little
they
League
said no.
yes.
Yeah.
And the size of the little field can't be expanded because you have Route 94
Okay.
in the way, so, and the retention pond behind it. So basically, the property was not suitable for any field larger.
Okay. It was a good presentation.
Yes.
It was.
And agreed.
Remember, it was very informative.
Yes, I remember you saying
So
that.
to stress, if it doesn't get us to where we are, we already have an identical sized field over there, so I just want to get it out there to stop thinking of options.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council?
I'm good.
All right. Moving on, we have the police station knob and tube report. We have before you from the electrical inspector, Mr. Paolucci, for the knob and tube inspection of the police station. There's the information there. It does state that there is knob and tube wiring throughout the basement. It's exposed knob and tube, which can be hazardous. There's open splices, were found in various locations. There are live wires that need to be addressed. Removal of the exposed knob and tube wiring can be achieved. And then we have the labor costs and the estimate time to complete that, plus materials.
I make a motion that we pay to fix this exposed knob and tube wiring.
Second.
Aaron seconded.
It's not quite over, it's not. Thank you, Chris, and Gordon and Cheryl, how's that? Any further discussion?
Yeah, I don't have a problem, I just want to know where the funds are coming from, and I want to keep track of all the money that's spent into that building. I believe we have air handlers that's going to be coming in on bids and stuff like that, so.
I didn't do the math.
This is only like.
Yeah, but there may be more that they don't know of it yet, and that's the problem with knob and tube wiring. When you pull on a string, you don't know where the string goes, so, I mean, talking to electricians in the field, it's a Pandora's box, and I understand the motion is to fix it all, and I agree, to fix all the emergency issues with the knob and tube wiring.
Any further discussion? Do we have any answers to where the monies would come from? Kelly, do you have a suggestion? No, you don't.
Well, it depends whether or not we have another storm next week. I mean, I did look at his budget, he's doing okay on it. He's gonna need a lot of gravel for the spring. So to just allocate his buildings and grounds
I don't
money,
have the answer either.
I don't know, it's a little questionable. He's probably gonna go over his overtime budget and possibly sand some salt.
What do you have in contingency?
About 20,000. 5 of which was
Is
supposed to
earmark?
be.
In earmark?
No, but we have 2 lawsuits going actively.
Yep.
One which will be completed by most likely early May. I received word today, and another one that is getting ready to be filed. So there'll be costs with that associated that get expensive. So I wouldn't be earmarking that for something else right yet. That's all I'm saying.
At the end of the day, we're gonna find the money to fix it.
Mhm. Right now, I would suggest DPW and then see how much it is, but honestly, until his season is over, you really don't know. But he's right at the cusp on all of his sand, salt, overtime, all of that. He's over in stone, gravel, he has plenty of money, but the season for gravel is coming up, so it's gonna be,
We are through the mud season. The mud season was about 2 weeks ago, we dried up
You
through
said
that.
that,
so.
No, we are.
Don't rain.
But how, considering all the snow hasn't melted, but that's.
No,
maybe an
mud
info.
season has nothing to do with snow, it has to do with frost.
Okay,
I got this.
I have no idea.
I'm happy to hear it.
Okay.
All right, so we've had a motion, it has been seconded. Any further discussion from the council? Chief.
Now, you mentioned that to fix the exposed wiring, I was wondering if the wiring, the knob and tube wiring throughout the walls, would be addressed.
That's just what Gordon was mentioning, that once you
It'll
stop
all be
pulling,
addressed.
it'll all come down, so. But we have what's here from Mr. Paolucci. Does that answer your question? So, yeah, I think that once you stop pulling, it's gonna keep coming.
I believe this is regarding the basement.
Right.
This isn't regarding.
Right.
all-
But
That's
what Gordon was saying is that once you start pulling from the basement,
I know how that works.
I know you do.
Knob and tube is dangerous whether it's in a wall or in a basement. So my assumption is we're fixing a safety issue in a police station, whether it's just the basement or the entire building. You can't fix a basement and leave knob and tube wiring everywhere else, so.
Right.
Any further discussion?
So we're gonna find it someplace?
That's the, we're going to, yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, as any licensed electrician working on knob and tube wiring, he has a legal obligation, once he sees it and it continues. He's by code, has to continue and fix it.
Okay. Good to know, thank you. So this might just be,
The tip of the iceberg.
yes,
And that's the perfect example why it's been, I believe it's been in the capital budget twice, and each time the electricians have refused to touch the project because they didn't want to open a Pandora's box.
Once you start, your license is on the line, your negligence is on the line, so it needs to be addressed.
Well, is this person willing to do it?
well, that was gonna be my question. We put it out to, is it an RFP or is this something that he's willing to do?
Well, I think at this point, when you're opening up Pandora's box, you don't know yet, and he'll probably address that, and if it is an issue, he'll be coming back for, hey, we need.
So it's something he's going to start doing initially,
Yeah.
and then, okay.
If it's over $5,000, doesn't have to go into bid instead of the town.
Well, not if you're
In
not
the
if you're in the middle of it.
Right, it's a
That's
safety-
the problem, you either
Yeah.
decide to
He's
do
not in
it
the
now
middle,
or you
right?
don't.
Right, it's a safety issue, so he's,
Right.
you know, it seems that either you're gonna do it or you're not.
Right.
Right.
The police force wants it done because it's a safety issue, so you need to start it now, right?
So- Once it's
Which
started.
this safety issue's been in there for 50 years.
Right, but.
My point is,
that's-
once we
that's-
stop pulling on it, you don't know where it's gonna go, so this is the estimate we got, and once it's into it, he'll probably be coming back, and then they can't come back and say, this is over 5,000, it should go out the bid. Just by the process of how it's being presented in front of us, you start tugging on the string, you don't have to follow it.
So is he gonna come back after he reaches his 32 hours and there's an
Yeah,
additional
sure.
problem and
Yeah.
ask for a change order or some sort of?
Right, and if it's way too much, you can put it out to bid at that point.
Yep.
Okay.
No one else.
So as we go, then I'll worry about it. $2,000 isn't the problem.
Right,
$12,000 is
Right,
the
is a
problem.
problem.
Exactly.
okay. Any further discussion? No. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on, we have a letter from the International Brotherhood of Police Officers, Local 637. Would you? If you'd like, I will read it aloud. It was addressed to myself. The IBPO Local 637, the union, is addressing this letter to you, again, it was addressed to me, and your fellow council members in reference to your town council meeting that was held on February 8, 2018. At what price will you put on the health and safety of your own town employees and citizens who enter the building? First off, a letter was sent via mail on October 30th, 2017 to you. The letter requested health and safety testing done at the current police station. Councilmember Rogers came to our meeting on November 14th, 2017 and advised the stance of the town in reference to a new station. However, stated he would bring the concerns to the other town council members. Your town council meeting held on December 14, 2017, a discussion was made about concerns members of the union had. Your council members passed a motion to get pricing for an air quality test and an inspection of the knob and tube wiring. And furthermore, have these testing been completed? As stated by and have these testing completed, as stated by Councilmember Horst. After review of the minutes submitted by the Forster Town Town Clerk, Susan Dillon, there was no notation to have the testing completed, only to get prices. Just for your convenience, I have attached the approved minutes to this letter. It is now mid-February, and you have not followed up on your motion to get any tests done at the direction of the Forster Town Council. The union spoke with Chief Zeal and advised him of the ongoing concerns with the air quality. We commend Chief Zeal for contacting the trust, who came out and completed an air quality test. That being said, we now have been advised via a general order not to enter the basement of the Forster Police Department because of the hazardous air quality. For your convenience, that report has been attached to this letter. Out of the concerns for the employees of the Forster Police Department, and to further notify you, a test was conducted with a non-contact voltage tester that detects voltage in the range of 12 to 100 VAC, which is volts alternating current, on the knob and tube wiring in the basement of the Forster Police Station. All the knob and tube wiring that could be located tested positive for voltage. Thus, you have active electricity running through the lines. As I am sure you are aware, there was a recent electrical issue that occurred on February 8, 2018, leaving the Forster Police Department with a loss of communications to include phones and radios to our dispatch station. That was later determined to be an overheated circuit breaker, which could have caused a fire in the basement. The only progress that the union sees the town council taking is attempting to derail and badmouth the Forster Police Department in a public forum. You and your fellow council members have appeared to take more time and spoke with more persons and or agencies to disband the Forster Police Department than to fix the underlying problem, the police station that we are in. We understand you wish to bring different solutions to the taxpayers and let them vote as they wish. We are not in any way against the taxpayers of Forster making their own unbiased decisions on who should serve them and or if a new police station is warranted. This union feels highly disrespected by the comments that were made about the officers of the Forster Police Department. The continued statement to employ troopers from the Rhode Island State Police that are equal or better than the Forster police officers was a slap in the face to all the officers and their families. These officers have made efforts, have an open working relationship with juveniles in the schools to adults in the community. Statements and actions made by your town council members put a divide between the approval and respect of the members of the Forster Police Department. It is completely understandable to look at different possibilities without bashing town employees. As Councilmember Rogers later stated to explain, he meant the Forster Police set the high bar. It was clear to all union members who were there and well as members who heard the statements later what was meant. Not only to the union members, the chief of police and the citizens who were there knew what was meant. As in the union meeting, Councilmember Rogers attended, he advised us that the reason for the talks with the Rhode Island State Police was because he needs leverage. If that didn't stand out, your council members further did not want any sworn officer administration to be part of the meeting with the Rhode Island State Police about them taking over coverage of the town. So your council members think the Forster Police sets the high bar. Why would there be an issue with having a sworn member present? One other statement that Council Member Rogers had altered to the union and the public alerted to the union and the public is that the Forster Police Department budget is much greater than the Forster Department Public Works budget compared to other towns. Councilmember Rogers further stated he believes citizens would be more grateful with upkeep of the roadways and other services provided to the town of Forster. The union finds his statement again to be biased and providing false information to the public. The union has gathered annual budget figures from close and/or comparable towns. Please find the below figures approximate percentage of the budget differences. And then there's Gloucester, Situate, Forster, West Greenwich, Hopkinton, and Richmond, and comparison of the police annual budget to the DPW. In Gloucester Police Department, annual budget 13% greater than DPW. Situate Police annual budget 22% greater. Forster Police annual budget is 51% greater. West Greenwich Police Department annual budget 51% greater. Hopkinton Police Department 64% greater. Richmond Police Department 73% greater. The union feels that advising the town council and the public of the health and safety concerns of the police station has started a divide. The union members would like to go home safe to our families without the constant concern of our safety within our police department. We furthermore believe, based on Councilman Rogers' bias and conflicting reports about the Forster Police Department as a whole, he presents a conflict of interest with him being on the Police Department Building Committee. We are requesting you to look into this matter as president of the Forster Town Council and see if he is fit to sit on the building committee. We are still requesting in writing the status of your efforts to obtain an electrical testing for the police building, your plan of action for the air quality, and if you see that if there is a conflict of interest with Councilman Rogers to be on the building committee. Respectfully submitted, IBPO Local 637 Executive Board, Joseph Cole, President, Michael Kitson, Vice President, and David Brett, Treasurer. If I may, I would like to respond to this first since it was addressed to me. There were several things that I highlighted that came to my attention, that the council is taking attempting to derail and badmouth the Forster Police Department in a public forum. I do not recall that happening from the council as a whole. I think that the council is moving forward. We are in difficult times. We are trying very hard to get everything done that we want done and that we feel is needed for the police department. We certainly tell everyone to go and look in that police department. I myself have told many people to take a tour to see what is in the police department and why we need to do something. As far as Mr. Rogers not being, I believe it was competent to be on the building committee, he was voted by the council to represent the council. There were other members of the committee that were also voted on to be on there. Did I agree with all of those people that were placed on the committee? No. It's a fair representation. It was voted by the council as to all the members that would be on that committee. Mr. Rogers replaced Mr. Estivo, who was on the council. Mr. Rogers, I feel, is competent to be on the committee. If anybody else would like to make a comment? I felt I needed to address it since it was addressed to me.
You want me to go next?
I
a lot of this.
Mine's simple. The first two, I don't even know where this stuff is. Referred to as a slap in the face. I think it's a slap in the face to say Mr. Rogers is not qualified, or whatever term was used, for not being on the building committee. So I guess this slap in the face thing goes both ways. Go ahead.
I have a concern about basically saying that this council has not addressed the issues brought forward. They did hold the meeting. I was the only council member that showed up to that meeting, and I did bring the concerns back. And unfortunately, things move slow when you have to put things on the agenda. They have to be addressed. They have to go back. In government, it don't happen overnight. But since this council has sat with the union and took out their concerns up and brought back to this council, this council has addressed, and money was never, never, never a question to fix those issues. And I will start with the two concerns, was the knob and tube wiring and the air quality tests. Went back, explained that. We first addressed the air quality test. There was air quality test done. The air quality test came back in all working areas of officers doing their duties to be within the guidelines and not exceeding dangerous levels. The only one singular place that exceeded it by 5 times the limit was the basement, a non-employee,
2 times.
2 times, a non-employee place, and the recommendations were to address any water issues around the stone basement. And part of the problem of the basement was backing up to a former council where the flashing was bad around the chimney and the water ran down the chimney into the basement, soaked up, and there was black mold visible on the sheetrock in the basement. We addressed, long before this council, addressed thousands of dollars fixing the chimney, fixing the roof, fixing the flashing, removing all the visible mold in the basement. Then, the address this time, the recommendation was to deflect any water around it. We went above and beyond because in the recommendation it even said it would be unfeasible to address it with air handlers and air quality machinery. We went and we are spending, and I think the bid's probably going to be around $2,500 to $3,000 just for the equipment, and probably another $2,500 to $3,000 to install that to handle the air that met. That did not exceed bad quality, that met. Radon was clean. So we're going to spend $5,000 or $6,000 on fixing that issue, way beyond what the recommendations were, so this council moved for that. Now the knob and tube wiring, that doesn't just happen overnight. We have to send an electrician in, and I'm going to back up to that day we had an electrical problem because I got a phone call from the chief, and also I was talking with the council president on it, and I believe that was an emergency addressed issue. That was, stuff happens. Things happen in old buildings. It happens in my building. And in here it's written, almost you can portray like we neglected that. That was emergency discussions and immediately corrected and addressed. As far as I know, it was fixed that day or within several days of the issue being brought to our attention. Now we move on to the knob and tube wiring. I have not seen anywhere, and you can witness it tonight, we had to go out, we had to find out what's there, we had to get a recommendation on cost, because we just can't make decisions without knowing what our problem is to an extent, and maybe what it's going to cost us and where we're going to get it. So government does move slow when we're using the taxpayers' money. And I take offense for being singled out. I've been involved for almost 20 years going to council meetings, and I can count on my one hand, probably the ones I've missed in 20 years. And I've dealt with union contracts and unions in this town in my capacity, and I've never seen an attack like this on any council member. And I take offense to it. As a building committee member voted by this council, I've been in the construction industry for almost 30 years. And an integral part of this community. And to say I'm not qualified is a slap in my face. You can't play bully and victim in the same sentence. And that's what I see in this paperwork. I lead with my chin, I'm told.
Any further discussion?
Yes. You know, I think, I think that we should also discuss going out and talking to the state police. That was part of this. That's what started this.
No, that never happened because that was a rumor.
Wait.
That was a rumor.
That was a rumor, it didn't happen.
It did happen, but I think what we need to clarify is that there are a lot of people in this room, a lot of people under the misconception that some of us on the council squashed that before Mr. Rogers and I got a chance to go and talk to the National Police. Is that a title? Colonel. The
It
colonel.
wasn't the colonel you were speaking, you were going to speak with, it was Mark.
Right. But before, we had nothing to do with that. She got wind of it and she stopped it and she told us they were not going to do this, that was not happening, it was misinformation. That did not come from us. And I blame a lot of that on Facebook and a certain person that likes to twist things and put things out there and get people going. If you're going to do that, please put the information out there accurately and get it right.
And that's still going on today.
It is,
It
Gordon,
is.
and it really stinks,
Yes, it does.
because it has no bearing on what's going on up here. and
It's
how we're
political
making
hay
decisions.
for personal reasons for gain, and it shouldn't be done.
And it's affecting a lot of things that are happening with this town.
And they all do it.
Well, excuse me, I put this is a public
Excuse me,
document.
this is the
No,
council.
I'm not picking
Yeah.
one person, I'm saying it's happening, and well, maybe I did say that, I did say that.
Yeah.
It is happening, it shouldn't happen. As I said to Mrs. DeFranco the other day, I'm a Democrat, I ran on the Democratic Party, I got elected. But once I sat my butt down in this seat, I became somebody that's working for this town. I don't consider myself a Democrat or Republican up here. I try to do what I think is right for this town, for the police, because I think they work in an abominable position over there, in a building that is unhealthy regardless. I know what the report says, I know it's right there. It's on the levels. It's not a healthy building. It's not a safe building. No one that we pay that is on our payroll should have to work in conditions like that. No one. And they shouldn't have to take the heat because they'd like to be treated better. I'm not looking at you, I'm
Okay.
looking out there. They should be treated like we want to be treated in our workplaces. And they should, and that's for everybody that works in this town. I'm so sick of the crap and the garbage that is going on out there. I want to scream and throw up. We're going to lose good people, and it's going to be because of that. This is a town, a small town. If we can't work together, then we better find something else to do and another way to do it, because this sucks. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. You're always right on spot. Is there anyone else on council that would like to make a comment from the audience? I will get you a response in writing. Thank you. Moving on, the library board request. I was invited to a meeting on February 13th by the library board of trustees. We've been talking about the police building committee and the police building and looking at various things. They were looking, and I believe some of the members are here. Yes, thank you. Stop me if I've gotten it wrong. So they're looking to lease lands or receive lands from the town. They would like to continue as a private library versus a municipality. And this is all contingent upon the police station, how that progresses. They have spoken with the Foster Preservation Society about creating a historical corner in the center of Foster, located near the Foster Library. To achieve this, the Preservation Society would move the garage that's in the police parking lot, and this would be through grants which they are pursuing at this time. The libraries would like to consider moving the current police station, again, it's contingent on what happens with the police station, with the monies they would procure from the, to the same area, but they would use it with getting their grants, et cetera, is that? And this is also dependent upon costs, insurance, and other requirements after thoroughly exploring the matter. They would like to construct a 6,000 square foot to potentially 8,000 square foot library. They would like to have discussions with the town about possibility of sharing the parking lot of the new police station. They would need 1/4 of an acre, the public well, and the septic system. The libraries have looked into purchasing properties within town, but throughout, but thought this might be an option that would not take properties off the tax rolls. The libraries have asked to be on the agenda sooner rather than later due to the fact that the libraries have been given waivers in the past that give them extensions for 10 years. Then it went to 5 years, and now it's 1 year because they do not meet the requirements in their current buildings. They need to be showing progress, otherwise the state funding would be lost. If some option for replacing the current station is not achieved, they would still like to be interested in moving forward with the town to find some suitable location in the center of town. Did I cover it all?
I was looking for my packet for any
No,
information, and I see it's handwritten.
It's
there.
handwritten in my notes.
That's a lot for me to absorb and think, and I'm already thinking, I'm thinking bond move. I haven't even got to the point with the police station move, parking lot stuff, so I would like to have that formally in a letter as information, so I can read it, and stuff like that I need to absorb and think about.
I agree, as you can see. Yeah.
That would be
fine.
nice, please.
Okay, all right, but they did want to have some,
Well, that was a start.
so this is something that we can discuss further then.
Yes.
Is anybody opposed to that on the council? No. All right,
I
so
mean,
I will
I
get
can't
that.
begin to start thinking and asking questions. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will get that information to you, as it's all kind of mine. Yes, I see that. I have scribbled, so I will get it to you. Mr. Savazio, you have your hand up.
I did. In the two issues, the one that just passed and this one, I'd like to give us a historical perspective.
Brief.
I don't think it can be brief, okay? Because there are people here that need to know history. There are people here that were involved in history. And so here we are. There were two buildings recently for sale. We couldn't get votes to buy the two buildings and own the center of town. That building right there across the street is 4,000 square feet, and I could renovate that building for $600,000 and make a library. Excuse me.
Okay. Mr. Savazio.
Well,
Mr. Savazio.
Yes, ma'am.
Politeness, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. You're right. All right? There's a church for sale with a parking lot, an ex-church. Right? That's the library situation. The police situation, let me go back historically. 30 years ago, I attacked the elderly and disabled tax freeze. That cost us $10 million. 12 years ago, I tried to fully regionalize and got killed. That cost us $3.3 million. That's $13 million. There's somebody sitting at that
Kill
table.
it again today.
Okay, so you can't give away $13 million and not to be in the spot you're in. On the other hand, there are people on this council that think they only need to work on the expense side of the ledger. This town needs to get its head up and start to work on the revenue side of the ledger, because it's the same as the state. All right? If the state does not produce new revenue at Quonset Point, you can complain all you want about they're taking the scratch tickets and not putting where it's supposed to. Towns and cities and states constantly need new revenue to keep up with ever-increasing expenses. That's why this happened. That's why you have a library where it is, and it will continue to happen until we work on the revenue side of the ledger. That was not short, but that's the whole deal.
It was shorter than I expected, thank you. Yes.
I'd just like to address some points.
Could you just state your name?
I'm Karen Mueller, I live
Thank
on
you.
South Killenly Road. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees for the libraries. And we did actually look at those properties. As a matter of fact, we looked at them with our architects, because when they came on the market, it was close to the center of town. We'd like to preserve the village feel that we had here in Foster. But unfortunately, since we're a public building, we have to have a public well. And the setbacks for a public well meant that those properties did not work. We have to have 300 feet in every direction from the public well.
200.
200?
It used to be 400, now it's 200.
The engineer told me just recently, what is it?
6 feet.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's what I do for a
Yeah,
living,
yeah,
design and
okay.
install septic systems, so I have to meet the requirements on public and private
It went
ways.
over 50.
It went over 50 feet on each side, on the properties that we looked at. And that's why we've been running into some problems. And we're trying to dot all of our i's, cross all of our t's, so we're coming to the town council before we look at, you know, it's a good point, we need revenue in this town. So before we buy his property and take it off the tax rolls, we'd like to actually see if we can do something in the center of town first.
Thank you. So I will get that to you
Yep.
in legible. Moving on, appointments to Conservation Commission, and these are 3-year terms. We have 2 emails here, one from David Rathbun and one from Michelle Potter. Would someone like to read it from?
I didn't have them like that. Okay. Would you like me to read? These are both for conservation?
Yes, they both for conservation.
All right, I'll read this one first. Good morning. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you for making me feel so welcome last night. I am writing this letter to express my interest in the volunteer opportunity for the Conservation Commission. I first became interested in conservation in my capacity as a sustainability advocate for my department. I am looking forward to serve on the committee. Thank you, Michelle Potter. You want to continue with the second one?
Yes, and then we can just.
All right. This one's addressed to Sue Dillon. Dear Ms. Dillon, please accept this correspondence from me to express my interest in serving in a term as a volunteer on the Forster Conservation Board. As a native of Forster, I have seen our open spaces dwindle way beyond my expectations. Between the Providence water supply and the abundance of no trespassing signs that are showing up everywhere, I am concerned about preserving what public accessible open space we have remaining. Having met the current and future members of the board on Monday, 26th of February 2018, I am impressed with the mix of contributors working to improve our community by advocating the advisory board's agenda. I am sure will be a shared goal of all members. I have spent countless hours of my life hiking through the woods of our hometown and would be thrilled to have the opportunity to participate in the commission with like-minded individuals that share my outlook. I am a well-educated individual that has the ability to serve with an open mind and the desire to achieve our shared goals. My desire to help is compounded by the fact that we need to leave the future generations the same access to places I am able to hike and enjoy as a resident of Forster. With regards, David Rathbun. And with that, I would like to make a motion to accept both David and Michelle Potter to the position, these are new positions, right?
Right,
Openings to the positions, 3-year terms.
3-year terms, yes.
To the Conservation Commission.
Second. Discussion.
May I speak to it?
Yes.
I am now the liaison to the Conservation Commission, and I was at that meeting, and I was very inspired by them. And I have to give kudos to Susan Dillon, because she's been actively involved in getting people to fill these positions.
Yes.
And these 2 new people bring a lot to the table, and I look forward to sitting in on the meetings and hearing what they have to have. I think it's a good fit, and thank you.
So we have a motion by Gordon and it was seconded by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm assuming you're Michelle. Thank you. And Mr. Rathbun, did he?
No, he couldn't make it. He couldn't.
Yeah, I don't see him.
Okay. I spoke to him last week. So thank you very much. I appreciate you helping out. Yes. Moving on, Wright's Auto Parts. It's a request for reconsideration, appeal of denial. If you recall, we did not renew the license for Wright's Auto Parts LLC back in December due to the recommendation of our building inspector. They are in violation of the plans that are the permits that we allow. You have before you what has been worked out between the assistant solicitor and I guess it's the council representing Wright's Auto Parts. Are you present? Yes. Oh, great.
Work out.
Hmm?
You said work. I don't think-
They sat down and talked about this. So that's what they worked out this. Okay.
So this was agreed upon between them?
It
This
was
is what
This
what
is-
they came up with
This is
for
a-
us.
That's
Right,
my
right.
answer.
See
This is
whether or
right.
not you want to approve
This
it
is
or
whether
not.
we want to. It's not, it's just something that they presented to us.
Okay.
Do you want me to put a motion on the floor in the affirmative just to get the discussion
Yeah,
going, please?
thank you.
So I make a motion to accept the, to approve, and all motions have to be dated in approval so we can get into discussion. I make a motion that we accept the proposal presented for fixing the issue with the Wright's Auto Parts LLC, and if it passes, maybe amendments to the, I don't want to get into the licensing at this point, so
I'll second for discussion.
I've got a lot to say, I don't know who wants to go, but.
Well, Mr. Dillon, you started first, so go ahead.
Well, do we have, I mean, who's here tonight?
I'm here.
Can you just say, could you
I'm sorry,
introduce?
William Ritchie?
Damon Burley on behalf of Wright's Auto.
Okay.
William Ritchie?
Yes.
And you're the current owner
I
of,
am a manager of the
the
property.
manager of the
Yes.
property?
Who would the owner be?
Morris Magnolia.
Morris?
Is he,
He's not present.
well, I believe what's in question is Morris Maglioli's license? So
Yes.
is somebody, are you speaking for?
Yes, I'm the representative for the company, yes.
Is that
Yes.
kosher?
He has an attorney, yes, an attorney.
Yes.
His attorney represents the company. Tonight.
Well, I guess I would ask them what to explain this again to what you're looking to do, and then I guess we can have a discussion after that.
Absolutely, if I may.
Yeah.
Well, first, I just like to thank the council for allowing us to speak there tonight. As you're aware, their license was not renewed back in December. They have held this license since 2006 and been in operation all this time. And the license has been renewed basically without their presence at the meetings ongoing. My client is aware of zoning violations on the property. He was not aware that those violations would affect his ability to renew the license. And since you have not renewed the license, we have sat down with the town solicitor and tried to work out an agreement because, as it stands, he does have a considerable amount of cars on the property. We have a plan in place to remove a large portion of those cars, but we would need the license in order to be able to do that. Without the license, you kind of tie their hands and they're not able to do that. In return, we put together a plan of what Wright's Auto Parts is willing to do.
Can I stop him for a second?
Sure.
I would just like to say, you wouldn't be standing here if we didn't do something. If we didn't take an action, this would still be ongoing, cars would still be going in, and no one would be going out. So the problem would exist. So this is the reason we did what we did. We didn't renew the license to
Yes.
get action.
Well, I'd like to address a couple things because once he gets further down the line, we forget where we were at.
Yeah,
Now, you
right.
said licenses have been renewed on a yearly basis. I've been part of that, being involved for many years as several members here. And we have a checklist that we go through and concerns that we have, whether it's the fire marshal, the fire the taxes due and stuff like that, things that pertain to that. And I believe the property was purchased with a 500-car limit on the property to operate. So obviously, we're clearly beyond the 500-car limit, so that was addressed as part of the issue, is why we didn't renew it. Now, to say you need a license to remove them, I'm working on Mill Road. I'm there, but apparently you don't have a license, but you can still continue to bring cars in every day. So you can't have it on both sides. So there's clearly cars going into that facility on a daily basis, but yet you're standing here, and this is the problem I have, and I wouldn't have done this until I heard you say, we cannot remove the cars without our license. Well, the same should be held, you shouldn't be able to bring any cars in without a license, but every day they continue to come into the property. I just needed to say that.
If I could just respond,
It's true.
I do understand that.
Well, I don't, because you can't have a one when you're not the other, so I don't understand that.
So if if I may, as a solicitor, I think this goes on in a lot of towns, and you know, we do see it. So I think what you need to do is, number one, don't bring any more cars in, because we will shut you down. Okay. Right? Yep. The other thing is that, you know, 500 cars is not 1,500. I mean, everyone, you know, we're not second graders, right? So we know what 500 is from 1,500.
I know.
All right. So what you can't do is, and you can't continue to push the envelope, right?
Yes.
You know, and we're willing to work with your law firm. We know these guys, we respect them, my law firm does, but you have to work with us as well. Because our recommendation is going to be to shut it down and then make all the cars come out of there. All right? This goes on in many towns doing this same type of thing. I'm president of the West Greens Town Council. We have lawsuits going on in our town with the same problem. And we have DEM involved and everything else because we've had them bring in car crushers. They can't bring any more cars in, but they have to crush the cars and bring them out. So this council, we thought would want to work with you guys, but this is the first I'm hearing tonight that you are basically abusing the courtesies of this council by continuing to bring cars in, right? Well, so number one, you got to stop that. Or our recommendation as a law firm, after we met with your lawyers in good faith, not knowing this issue, was we came up with a 2-page document of what you're going to do.
Yes.
But it looks like you've already violated that. Go ahead.
Well, the 500 cars, as you had said, was never, was granted on the license prior to Morris receiving it, and it said the same stipulations. In the transcript, it was never just, it never broken down what the stipulations were. So obviously, he didn't know what they were. I have a copy of the transcripts here.
Yeah, but if it said 500 cars, how would you think it would be 1,500 or 2,000?
Yeah, no. The 500 cars was John Naylor before Morris received the license. So when they granted the license from John Naylor to Morris, it's going to be the same stipulations. The stipulations were not addressed on the hearings.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean,
so how would you know the
if the license is 500 cars, that's 500 cars.
But the license on the wall is, there's no regulation on the license, doesn't state how many cars are allowed. And you guys sent Mr. Scorpio, I believe, was before Rhett. Was he the building inspector? Okay, he came 2 years ago to the facility, and he said, you guys got an issue with, you might have an issue with cars. So I said, okay, what is the issue? He said, I'm going to look into it. He came back about a week later and said, there's no issue with cars. So now that was all set. So now we keep going on in business. Now Rhett Bishop came to the facility and said, listen, you've got an issue with cars. I said, I've heard this before from Peter. He said, I'm going to look into it. So we found transcripts. Okay? So now he brought it to our attention. He said, the town council would like to get him refigured. We know it can't be 500 cars, them are his exact widths. We're trying to get a number that we can both work with. So I said, that's fine. So in communication with my lawyer, he was busy at the time, so it took longer than what it should have. Yes, there are cars coming in, and I have numerous, I dumped over 200-some cars. I got paperwork here to prove it. So you're only seeing cars coming in. The yard does look like a mess, but the mud, the snow, now it's just, it's very hard to move stuff around. Machinery's breaking down, so you can't only say it's got cars coming in. I have
there are multiple issues.
And I know it's not the prettiest sight. We're not saying that.
You got guys working in the street on cars. You got guys putting stuff and junk out on the road and working on cars. Across the street is only supposed to be putting sales of cars. There's junk cars over there. So you've got an additional problem across the street.
Yes.
There isn't one single rule that, and listen, I'm all pro-business, and you can ask anybody in here. I go down fighting for businesses in this town to the full. But when you abuse the system that bad, you've got no leg to stand on. And I'll be hard pressed to figure out how, and you're going to have to show, in my opinion, this council something, because you've abused it. You're going to have to show us a little bit more good faith before I'll even vote to renew this license. And you haven't showed it. So this is just the beginning of the discussion. And here's my opinion on the 500 cars. I believe it was part of the sale. We can get into the weeds, and we ain't going to be able to figure that out tonight, but our lawyers will get into that and show where we stand on that. And my recourse, if you can't operate with 500 cars on a property that was, from what I understand, a limit of 500 cars, you do have a recourse. And your recourse would be to apply for a commercial site review, go in front of planning, present your case, have your neighbors who they've been treated pretty badly in that neighborhood. Have your neighbors, and this is how it works with businesses in town. That's why you have to be a good neighbor. So if you're a good neighbor, you get things. Your neighbors get to speak. When you want to expand from 500 cars, you go through a commercial site review. Their recommendations move to zoning. So you request zoning to increase from 500 to 1,500 or 200,000. You state that case, and every one of your neighbors within 200 feet get a registered letter of your boundary line, and all others get to speak and weigh in if they agree or not agree. Now, we have 2 junkyards on that road that I've been in this town my whole life.
And they have no restrictions on their vehicles.
And I will tell you one thing, you know how many complaints I've heard from that other junkyard? None.
Because they haven't been in business over a year.
They have a lot of cars, no, there have been cars on that property for my entire life.
But
Your property had no cars for a certain amount of time.
You're correct.
And I stuck up for people when they said, I built my house on Mill Road, there was no junkyard there. But I know, coming from Forest, that the junkyard's always been here. The license fee had been continued and no cars there when Newell Wright left and cleaned it up. So, and I stuck up for the business. And listen, you bought a piece of property on a road that's had a junkyard for long before I've been alive. Shame on you for not knowing that. But now, with the 500 car limit, there's a problem, and it's more than this. And like I said, I've worked on that road. You may have jumped 200 cars, but I've been working on that road, and I've seen at least 100 go in. So if you're junking 2 and bringing 175 in, this paperwork says you'll take care of 25 a day. Well, 25 don't get you anywhere if you're junking 25 and bringing 20 in.
Yes.
So at this point, in my opinion, I need to see some action from you guys.
Of course. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but this problem it sounds like this problem has been for years. It hasn't been. It's been a period of 8 months since that was there that brought to our attention. So you can't, we're trying, but, you know.
I think it has been a problem for a number of years.
Yeah.
You might just be aware of it the past 8 months.
That's what I meant, yes.
It's been worse under your ownership, I will tell you that. Far worse than other complaints going back 15, 20 years ago.
I do think you might not have been aware of it.
That's what I'm trying to say, yes.
But you were aware of it.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't aware
You
of it.
had to know that there was a limit and there were complaints about it. I will tell you, I did a little detective work.
When it was done.
I had a little detective work that I sat at the end of your road for an afternoon and watched cars coming in, people going in, people working on the street. It was unbelievable because I didn't want to sit here
Speeding, pulling whole shots in the middle road, going fast. I've seen that too. I couldn't believe it.
It was.
I mean, if it's somebody that works at the property, it's my problem, but I can't control it. But she is right. I do want to bring everything back in the yard where it belongs, not in the street.
I think
And that's where the fence is coming in.
definitely appreciates all of the concerns that you have, and it isn't disputing those concerns. And actually, wants to make an effort to remedy those concerns, and I think that's kind of what we put together in this proposal, was a remedy to most all those concerns, and actually clean up the yard, make sure that, he's got proper screening in front, redo the whole parking lot, remove those cars from across the street completely.
Okay, I have a question. March 8th, 2017, our building zone official instructed you of the deficiencies on the property. At the time, he's got it written down, there's approximately 2,000 voters on the property.
Yeah, I was disclosed that.
He was concerned with the live fencing screening, where it had grown too tall, so obviously you lost, you lost the screening from the road.
Yes.
The abandoned house on the property, he was looking for it to be
To board the windows up and secure it.
Yeah, this was March 8th of 2017. Now, what have you done that's on this list?
I haven't done anything on this list.
Okay, so here we are, a year later,
Yes.
and what you've already been asked to address has been ignored. And during 9 months of that, you actually were holding a license.
Yes.
That probably shouldn't have been renewed the year prior. So here we are a year later, and this hasn't been addressed. So when I read what you're going to do now, like, why didn't you do it before?
Yes.
This is you are ignoring building and zoning. He brought it to your attention, this needs to be addressed, but We didn't know anything about it.
Yes.
We don't know this.
We were communicating together, and he was right, he wanted us to get done, I didn't do it. But he was coming back and forth, and we were trying to get a game plan, but.
But we're a year later
Yes. You're correct.
with a game plan and now the problem's gotten worse. Now it's worse.
Yes.
Because now you're asking us to give you renewal license so you continue to do what you're doing. Well, I have no reason to believe that I would
I understand.
renew a license for you to continue to do what you're doing, and that's with a year's worth of track record here,
Yes.
nothing.
So,
I think also, what we're asking is not just a permanent renewal, it is give us 120 days to let us
And maybe
put this, implement this
inspect.
plan, and then let's revisit it in 120 days, see if he's done all, held his end of the bargain, cleaned everything up.
I would actually shrink that down and have you come in front of us and give, like, say it's 60 days.
Yes.
And then you come in front of us and tell us what you've done and what you've approved before we grant an additional extension on that. And also, I would like the input from the neighbors to see and to confirm that, because I'm gonna be honest. It sounds like you're bullshitting me when you're telling me this stuff you're telling me. You wanna renew the license so you can take cars out, but you're bringing them in. So,
No, we're doing business, I mean, I've done that in the height, so. I mean,
and I understand
Your
that.
idea would be perfect.
So I would make an amendment, an amendment to the motion to allow a 60-day
I think that's
license
very fair.
and to come back
Yes,
with progress.
yes.
I'm gonna want, if you.
I'll make it, go ahead, you can
If
add.
you'll put a motion
Yep.
together, I want, Red's office, before, when they're coming before us, that Red inspected, or he
Yes,
sent,
that was-
or had Mark, I want, Mark Horner to go out as,
That's something we
That's
discussed.
something
And
we
the
Your attorney.
amendment for the 60 days will include visual inspections
and do that
with our zoning official, and
Yes.
then to come back to us after 60 days,
To show you something.
and we'll address renewing it again. I'll be honest with you, you've got so many cars there, this may take many 60-day renewals to get where we need to
Yes,
get.
but at least you're working with us.
And in the meantime, we'll figure out the issue with the 500 cars, because I think it's 500 cars, and you do have a recourse for that, and I explained that. So,
how many?
Can we just stipulate, because we're not gonna be able to remove
Problem.
400 to 500
Give them the money.
cars just in 60 days.
Actually,
Well, he's not saying, saying, to show that we're doing.
progress.
Yes,
In other words, don't bring in 25 and send out 28.
yes.
Right.
There is, last time I told Brett when he was there, was 2,000 cars on the property.
Okay, so,
You think there's 2,000?
Yes.
I think there's far more than 2,000.
so
I'm
I
not
just
good
have
at guesstimate, but
you're gonna end up back here in 60 days,
Yes.
and we're gonna be talking about the same thing, because in 60 days, I don't believe you're gonna be able to address your car problem.
Oh, I'm definitely not gonna be able to address it in 60 days.
But
I can show you
you're how
what-
serious we are about
Yes.
this. All right.
Now, you have in your letter, you're saying you'll pull 20, 25 cars a week.
Yes,
You know, if you do the math for that, the amount of cars you have to remove, 20 cars a week, that'll take you over 2 years to do that.
Without bringing one in.
Well, bringing one in. So you may have to redo your math.
Yeah,
I have to bring it
redesign
on.
your plan,
Yes,
and, and you gotta give us something concrete
of course.
that you're gonna do, and it's gonna be done by a certain date. That's how it's gonna have to be done.
And just from my perspective,
Yes.
all due respect to the lawyer, don't come in and say that, it rained out, a piece of equipment broke down, the dog ate my homework, I got a flat tire. I mean, we're all adults here, right? We're not in junior high school, so please, don't
I'm
bring that
not saying it
stuff
to
in.
disrespect anybody, I can show you pictures of the machine, folks, is broke.
Then
2 days
do
ago.
something else.
Yes,
Right? I
I'm
mean,
trying to get a new machine now.
You're here, basically with hat in hand,
Yes,
talking to us with your angry neighbors sitting around you right
of course.
now. So you need to come with some good faith in the 60 days. You can't come here 60 days from now and then say nothing's been done about it. No more working in the road.
Yes.
Clean up the other side of the street. I mean, that stuff can get done if you put your effort.
Of course it can, yes.
And, you know, since I've been the solicitor here, this council is very reasonable and tries to work with people, but you can't, you know, sandbag them, right?
No.
So, so that's from my perspective. I know we're gonna be dealing with your attorneys and,
I'm glad it's
you know,
first time
this stuff that I'm finding out tonight is disconcerting to me when we're entering good faith contract negotiations or like agreement negotiations with your attorneys, and then we're finding out that you're still hauling cars in. That is offensive to me.
Okay.
All right?
So my amendment would include Mr. Horner
I want to include the abandoned house.
and to address
Yes.
the abandoned house.
That's a simple problem.
It's very easy. I'm gonna take pictures and then before and after pictures.
So,
I think it should go to the building and zoning completely, not necessarily Mr. Horner, but the building and zoning.
How long is the process?
I said to Rick's office what to have.
Red directs what he's gonna do, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
And that was addressed when we hired Mr. Horner. True.
Right.
So,
I have that picture.
and hopefully, you know, listen, you gotta be a good neighbor. There were, when I was a kid, there were very few houses on that road.
Yes.
It's always AR, and that was back in the day, everybody came out here for the junkyards. But there are many more houses on that road, so you have to be even more cognizant of the people that are living there. And it's gonna be a tough road, because the junkyard's not a happy word
No.
in any residential neighborhood. So, it was a big grandfathered in. You'll get some support from me on them being there my whole life, and they were there first.
Yes.
But I'm serious, when you abuse it, I can be pretty nasty.
Yes,
Madam Chair, do you have a motion and a second?
we do have a motion.
And a second?
And a second,
All right,
yes,
so
we do.
take a
Thank you,
vote.
I have it written down, Mr. Savazio. Any further discussion from the council? Thank you. Yes, from the audience.
Audience. I'm Carl Sicoscio. I live on Cape Randall Road. I think most of you know me. I spent 17 years as a building and zone official and 5 years as the chairman of the zoning board. I dealt with the junkyards for 17 years. I'm with him, pro-business. We don't want to put anyone out of business. That's not the way it works. But for him to say he didn't know there was a limit, okay, that was a miscommunication on someone's part. Every month, I pay my taxes. I come in and I pay them, and I started with Peter Scorpio about the problem there years ago. And I spoke to Rhett when he took over. Nothing was done until I came in January and found out his license was not renewed. I said, finally. Now, I dug up my old zoning book. Unfortunately, it's 2010 and the new one, but I found that the articles are the same as prohibited use, junkyard, nothing changed. And junkyards, when I was in office, we controlled them by intensity. If you had 16 acres of cleared pasture at your junkyard, and we had records of that, you could put your cars in there. There wasn't really a number, but you couldn't stack them, you couldn't branch out, you couldn't go across the street onto someone else's property. Now, I drive by there almost every day, and I don't know if any might have one neighbor here, somebody else can make it. It has been a hellhole. My neighbor below me, Kim, she couldn't make it. She got 2 flats last week. Granted, he went over there, fixed her flats. Now, my wife went off the road. He dug my wife out, 2 years ago. So he's trying to be a good neighbor, but we have to get this cleaned up. I find it hard. Someone said 2006 they got the license. I remember, God, only 5 years ago after Naylor left, there wasn't one car in that yard because they were thinking of putting in, one guy was going to build a house, and someone else wanted to put in a motocross course, and that got shut down. The yard was gorgeous.
Yep.
You got to remember, Hemlock Brook comes right through there.
Yep.
So if anything's leaching out, it's going to cause a problem. Now, I will give this to the solicitor. This is an old picture from Google Earth a year and a half ago. There's well over 2,000 cars a year and a half ago. You can have one as a council, excuse me. I got a new knee last week.
Wonderful.
I'm late. 1 4 years ago, 1 2 3 weeks ago. So,
What's the date on this, sir?
that was a year and a half ago. I couldn't get a current one, they didn't have it. And the reason we know that, because my neighbor's pool is not open, and she didn't open it that year. That's how we know. I was, you know, all right, I do swim in it once in a while. So all we're looking for is a good neighbor and us to be satisfied with. I mean, you can do a quick count. There's 2,500 cars there if there's not more. I don't care. And the biggest problem is going across the street where the auto repair is. We came by tonight, there's probably close to 100 cars there, and there was never a car there. When old man Newell Wright had that place, it was spotless. He would fix a car, haul it out, get it gone. The junkyard was spotless. Now it is a hellhole. And I ride a motorcycle. Sometimes in the summer, I can't get through there on my motorcycle. I'm going through, and here comes a forklift that doesn't see me. And it can scare you drastically. So I know you want to work with him, but one of the priorities should be clean up the road at Wright's Auto Repair, which his license, because I did check the town hall record, it's a second-hand license, but that doesn't give you the right, when you have a second-hand license, I have a junkyard. Otherwise, Route 6 would be a whole junkyard. Up and down, because everyone has second-hand. Route 6 is a junkyard, right? I was trying to be polite. I tried cleaning that up for 22 years. His place was good, not to pat him on the back, but he has done a lot.
No, pat me on the back, that was all I'm doing.
If you're going to set some rules and regulations, as neighbors, I'm speaking for them, they gave you permission. Wright's Auto should be cleaned up first, and the barrier, and no business on the street. I mean, it's really dangerous. I don't think I have to tell you. You know, if he's agreeing to it, the 60 days and have him back would be fine. Which you said, no cars going in, that's easy to prove. All you gotta do is stop at the end of the street for an hour and watch what's happening. Now, I know Denise, you said you did that. So that's all we're looking for. I mean, as far as someone squealing out and ripping up the road, it's not his employees, it's the people coming to get parts. I live on Cape Randall. Luckily, I drive a big truck. I stuff them in the woods and they're coming at me. That's just the way it has to be. Because they're going to run you off the road. My neighbor has been run off the road. I've been run off the road on my bike on that street. Yeah. So if we can get some action, you know, he's not getting rid of cars that quick. You start crushing them, what are you going to get rid of? 50 a week, if you're lucky, if you have a crusher there every day?
Well, I'm glad we had this meeting because now he knows, we know, and he knows where we stand. So it's the burden of proof is it is now.
Spring's coming, things will dry out, things should get corrected.
Yep.
And you can always, I mean, we used to fly over. And what you said about the other junkyard, I mean, next month I'll be here 44 years. I used to come here when I lived in Cranston and get parts. You came to Wright's and you came to Wilson. They had everything. Yep. Wilson moved out, sold to Fiore. Never had a problem when I was inspecting. They still don't. Joe did shut it down a year and a half ago. Walked away, locked the gates. That's got to be addressed at some point. Those cars have to. Yeah. Those cars have to go. And I'm surprised that the City of Providence Water Supply Board doesn't have someone here. Because when I was in, we monitored the reservoir, and actually at the bridge on King Road, there's a monitoring station there put up by the government to test the waters.
I think DEM is keeping a very close eye on it and watching it and testing it. And I can almost guarantee that DEM has got multiple phone calls of possibly stop leaching. So I'm sure that phone rings off constantly. They're aware of it.
I'm surprised the last council didn't address this, because one of the councilmen lived next door. He abutted the property. And I spoke to him on it. I'm saying, why aren't you doing something? It's getting out of control. Thank you for your time. I'll be here in 60 days.
I have it for a future agenda item. Thank you. Anyone? Yes.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. With the
could you take your name,
sure,
and your address? Thank you.
My name is Jacqueline Bowen. My son works for Bill. Also, I'm not a hater. I'm just a concerned neighbor.
He did work.
It's Boston.
But
the very least, he's not getting
So-
raised.
I live directly across the street from Joe's place,
We
from
don't have
Westfield.
streets, we have roads.
Sorry. So my concern is with the inspections, would there be like a fire marshal or something? Because my personal concern is with the amount of tires and gas tanks, if there was ever a fire in that yard. And so I want to make sure that that is something that's being inspected, is that our town would be able to deal with that.
Are the tires consolidated in individual large piles, or are they on vehicles?
I think that someone needs to go look and see.
Yeah, we
And
do
so,
have
and so
on-site.
that's my concern, is that there would be some type of a fire marshal or the fire chief, or I don't know, I'm a lunch lady. You know, but somebody that would have that type of knowledge would inspect.
We can also instruct Aaron Moslin to make sure, in this picture, it looks like clear lanes where fire trucks can get in and
Well,
around.
I don't,
But he should be able to go in there and make sure they're pretty much clear at all times, so.
yeah.
We haven't voted on the amendment, so I'd like to add,
Isn't she talking about on the other side?
I'm talking about,
Well,
I'm talking about the main junkyard.
The large one, not the first.
Yeah, that I just
So-
want to make sure that fire personnel can get in there because there is so much in there. If there was ever a fire, my fear is,
we have had fires at the junkyard in my time, I think it's 40 years, I think, 40. Haven't had many, but there's been a few. But again, I would add to the amendment to have Aaron Moslin notified to make sure that there's no, junkyard's a junkyard. Biggest concerns is the lanes are open, so trucks can access if there is a fire and isolate it to where it is. I don't see any large piles of tires that, for example, the one they had in Smithfield up on Log Road, you could see.
which I also lived on.
Okay, so I don't see that here, but the only main concern would be the lanes were open, so we have access if there was a fire in the back. So just to have a fire marshal, the fire chief check that out and make sure, and I'm sure that would be his concern, if the lanes are kept clear if there's an issue, so.
Any further discussion?
Could we have the motion again in a second?
We're still adding to it.
We're still going to
Well,
it,
yeah.
but that was something, thank you, Mrs. Fazio, because I was trying to jot down.
The amendment.
So the main motion was to accept the proposal, the preliminary compliance plan was the main motion, made by Gordon, seconded by Mr. Dillon. The amended motion, I have that the fire chief check for the fire lanes and location of tires and gas tanks. And there were others.
It was a 60-day.
60 days,
No
and
cars going
no cars going in,
Inspections.
and the abandoned building to be fixed, boarded up.
No vehicles going in.
No vehicles going in, yes, we said that, no
No,
cars,
but no cars. I mean, vehicles, you don't want to say, well, no cars, but they're, well,
but
trucks.
trucks.
So
Oh,
no
good, yeah.
We'll address that.
See, I don't think that way, but
Yeah,
that's good.
I have 5 vehicles that are coming in by the end of the week, and that'll be it. I just don't want just to, when I leave here, they're already bought from the auction, so.
And again, in my opinion, after 60 days, you get to the point where you've made some serious addressing.
Yeah. And I will get you an actual count, because that's not an actual count, that's what I think I have in there, so we'll get an actual count. It's gonna take a few hours to count the cars.
So you got 5 to 10 cars coming in the next week.
By
Give you a
Monday,
little
Tuesday,
wait.
the latest,
All
and
right.
that'll be it. Yes.
Okay. So the main motion was to accept the compliance plan as presented. It was amended to be 60 days with a visual inspection by the zoning official, that no vehicles will be entering after the 5 cars that are currently purchased.
Yes, yes.
That the fire chief will go in and check for fire lanes, location of tires, and gas tanks. Was there anything else?
Yes, inspectors.
Yes, the inspector, the zoning official.
Yes.
Zoning plan.
The zoning official,
And
yeah.
boarding up the,
And boarding
Boarding
up
of the
the,
house.
Denise, you didn't mention about Frank's Auto Sales. Is that going to be addressed first or the
Yeah.
junkyard first?
I'm gonna get the
60
front of
days.
the building and bring everything in the rear while
All right.
I'm junking, yes.
Can I, when you say from the front of the building
He's talking
into the
about-
junkyard, what about across the street?
That's what he's.
That's what I meant, yes.
Hemlock Auto.
I'm gonna
That's
start in the
Hemlock
front
Auto.
and bring in into the center of the yard as I'm junking cars.
Even all those big trailers? Like
The-
you've got a ton
The,
of
the
trailers.
trailer's over there so I can use the trailers to store parts, that's what the idea is in the yard. There's 2 or 3 trailers in the woods.
Get rid of the
Yeah.
cars,
Well, one of
put
his-
trailers in there.
Well, I have to use, when we take apart the cars, the process, we save some parts that are sellable, but I have to put them, I mean, it's not gonna be thousands of trailers, but
But eventually,
you get rid of
cars will
maybe-
be
You have room
gone.
across the street when you start removing about.
yes,
Right.
if you get rid of 200 cars, and maybe I could put maybe a quarter of the trailer of tail lights and rims and stuff that's sellable, so we get rid of the bulk of the cars.
I know it has to be in motion, but the town doesn't allow people working on their vehicles in the street, so.
Right.
That
That
definitely
is-
shouldn't even be part of this motion, it should be common sense.
Yes.
All right.
The problem is we overgrow it and it
Yeah,
forces
push
it
it
to
out
be in the
into the
street. And I'm not here lying, that's the truth.
Okay, so again, the amended motion is 60 days with a visual inspection completed by
Ron's not paying attention.
a zoning official, Mr. Savazio, you're listening, right? Okay.
What, I
By
was
a
in
zoning
the-
official. No vehicles will be entering the site after the 5 that were purchased.
Yes.
Enter. The fire chief will go and check. It's for the fire lane, tire locations, and gas tanks. There will be the boarding up of the open building.
Yes.
Is there anything else that,
And we're putting fences up, that was a proposal in the front.
Mr. Renzi?
In defense to the neighbors, in the exterior of the building, what he's gonna do to make it eye appealing, so that, I mean, it's kinda hard with a junkyard to make a junkyard eye appealing. A fence, I mean, people didn't move to the country to look at fences, but they're starting to sprout up here. Maybe a berm with some trees on it, okay, which has been a new facet in the world. Berm with some trees can probably make it a little more eye appealing for the neighbors and keep his junkyard behind the trees.
He did have trees, but now the trees are big. And
There's
so
no
you-
limbs.
there's
Yeah, there's
no,
nothing.
it's nothing there, there's just trunks.
To aerate them.
So you
I
can't,
think this is
Yeah,
gonna
probably.
be, it's gonna be ongoing, there's a
Right.
big list for him in 60 days,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, it's got a lot.
No, I'm just talking future 60
Right.
days, he just has to come back here to make you people happy for the next 60 days. I understood that from the first time you guys said it, and you're gonna give him multiple 60 days
Yeah.
until he cleans it up.
Right.
And if he was on track, he might get his license back.
Yes.
But that's just part of the mix down the road for the neighbors.
So I'm off
and that
I'm
is
open for
one of the
suggestions.
things, Mr. Renzi, that's in here, that he does put up some live screening.
Oh, it is on there?
It is, live screen fencing is
Who made
in
that
here.
recommendation?
No, it's in the written thing that you didn't
It's also
see.
in the
It's not in
zoning
the amendment.
No.
It's in the proposal.
We propose
It was in the
to council,
proposal.
yes.
It's required, you have 2 options.
Oh.
The natural fence, which is berm with trees, or a chain link fence with with
The
the
slats.
slats in between. As far as the neighbors, I mean, I don't live there and look at it every day, I'm around the corner, but I don't think the neighbors will mind as long as we don't see junk cars.
Right.
Personally, that's my opinion. The trees are a great idea, but like you said, they grow up,
They grow up and then,
oh, and then you got the top nice, the bottom there's nothing.
and that's what happened.
That's
here.
exactly
Well,
what
you
happened
could
at
put
both junkyards.
You could put the little ones like in front of the
Yeah, you could put
the
out
solar farm and little.
Yeah.
little-
Deer loves it, deer loves it.
Okay, so we've had an amendment, it has been seconded. All in favor of the amended, oh my goodness.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, this is very quick. The idea that the town of Foster allows trailers to become part of businesses, like unnamed, okay? I have friends who own a junkyard. They built the building. They can go to an exact spot, it's all on computer, and find that spot on the shelves in that building.
Yes.
Now, we're not gonna do that today, all right? But zoning, the council, zoning, planning, these trailer things, planning, planning. these trailers as a part of doing business is unbelievable.
Thank you. So the amended motion, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Going to the main motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We will see you in 60 days.
Thank you very
Hopefully,
much.
I will drive by a few times. Projects I know.
I'll be working
We'll be
on it.
working there.
That's
We're all right here.
I'd like to thank the council for addressing this. It's been-
Yes.
We've got a lot of issues addressed.
Oh, you have. That's why I'm here.
Moving on, we have the funding purchase of the extrication tool or extrication tool. I put that on? Yes, and you put that on and I've spoken to Cindy too. Go right ahead. So go right ahead. Go right ahead, you go. Knock it out of the park.
I'm making the motion so we can discuss what I did afterwards. I'd like to make the motion that South Foster if they agree, purchase the Jaws of Life, because I think that the town needs it now and should not wait till July for a new budget. And then when July comes, I've spoken to Kelly and we can set us up so that we can reimburse them at that time.
Good, second.
Thank you. Now can I speak to it?
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, can I question the motion?
Yes.
Was she saying,
They buy
can
it.
you clean up her motion? She's saying Jaws of Life, and that's not what.
Okay, let's go.
It's the pump that runs the Jaws Life. It's the
Okay.
power unit, the
Thank you.
extrication.
Thank you. All right. After our last meeting and I heard what Gordy said, I thought, I kept thinking about it and I talked to the police chief and then I talked to him and I talked to a couple other people and I thought, there's no way that we should wait until July to purchase this equipment. It's too important to the whole town, to everybody's welfare. So I tried to think outside of the box. I probably made some enemies, I don't know. And I contacted each of the fire stations and the ambulance corps, and I never did get to the police because I decided that was a bad way to go. And I asked them if they would be willing to each pay a portion of it, split it up between the 5 entities, seeing all of those entities use that or might depend on that piece of equipment to function properly. And
How'd that go?
Well, they work out.
like I just said, it blew up in my face.
First time hearing of it.
I just tried to tell you that before the meeting started, so you'd know. It blew up in my face, but they were all cordial. They were mad, but they were cordial. And I realized the futility. I tried to be very nice. I realized that they don't have the funds to do it. No, I called them. I didn't go. I couldn't go, but I called them.
You have it in your account?
They said they'd try. They were very nice, and they said they'd look into it. But I knew that they didn't have the funds, so that's why I said, I talked to Kelly, and Kelly said we could possibly do it that way.
My one question is, does Station 1 have the funds to utilize it and wait for us to reimburse you for that?
I asked him that.
Yeah, we have a couple of purchases.
Well, I mean, asking it one-on-one and here is a different.
Yep.
Yes, we have another, we're gonna put a new fire alarm in the station, we'll push that purchase off.
Okay.
And
And then use the money when we refund you to put the.
Right, the only commitment I'm looking for is to go over budget.
Oh,
Yes.
listen, you've got mine.
You got mine.
What was the commitment?
The 10,000 to go in the budget, to pay for it.
And I don't think that anybody in
No.
the financial top meeting would vote against.
I don't think so.
So I support that, and that's working together for a solution. And again, I know what you were trying to do, but each individual department has a small setup that gets us by, but that is the main responsible one, and everything's in their budget. That's.
You don't ask, you don't find out.
For example, years ago, Station 3 had the Cascade system, and we supported them with that. Every station has some kind of unique bot. Station 2 has ice rescue, and the other stations do it, but they got the main tools and the suits and everything. So we all divide up specialties, And Station 1, which is a huge specialty, is the Jaws Electronet unit.
But I would like to say thank you to all of you for listening to me and humoring me and then working with me. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Walden?
Just as the treasurer for Station 1, will this $10,000 be coming July 1st, or will it be $2,500 every quarter? So
I would
maybe a
assume
year
right
for
off
money.
of that, right? Once it's approved, we should have enough money in the account to write them a check, right? For 10,000 1st of July.
Cash flow and money are not the, and a budget are not.
Kelly, you have
But yes.
Out of a $13+ million budget, I think a cash flow of 10,000 is not a lot to ask.
No, that's what I told them we would do.
No, but I would have actually done it that way without thinking, because normally it just takes your budget divided by 4.
Good thing Tom's That's right.
Yes.
Because they're
Well, I
gonna
would have done it in
they're gonna have to
July,
put the
so-
fire alarm system in, so that
I'm not
would
a
mess up
total
they're pushing things back.
Right.
I'm gonna squirrel that money away.
Right, so.
Listen, do you really want to start with that?
Okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded, shall we move on? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Moving on thank you so much. And we're moving on to the RFP site bid. Mr. Rogers and I have been discussing this. Mr. Rogers, do you want to? Or do you want?
Hold up a second.
Do you want it, or do you want me to start, or?
Yeah, my gerbil fell off the wheel looking at the agenda, so you go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. When the building committee was first formed, and I attend as many meetings as I can, I'm not as diligent as others. At one point, the council had approved $30,000 for the building committee to work with. And it was, they went out to a bid for an architect to design the building. It was discussed about them awarding the bid, and I remember asking the solicitor at that time whether or not the building committee had the right to, I thought only the council could award bids. I was informed that no, the building committee had that right. So when it came forward about the site proposal and the awarding of that, I had questions, as did Mr. Rogers, about the ability of a committee to award a bid, since it's the council that has to, it's their responsibility of that. I assume that the previous awarding of that architecture design was because there was earmarked $30,000 and that money was there. So, and if it didn't go over it. So that was my concern. So, and Mr. Rogers' concern also. So we, I look back at the minutes when the building committee was appointed, and that was April 14, 2016. And there was discussion about that, and also in your packet, you would have got it tonight. There's also the police station building committee mission statement, which is there. So my concern is, and we do have your proposal and your bid, and we have one which we did not open and still can't. Because it wasn't my intent to open a bid tonight. I do think that it is the responsibility of the building committee, just as our department heads, when they get a bid, they look at the bids, they make their recommendation to the council, and the council is ultimately the one that does the awarding. So I just wanted to get that clear.
All right.
Moving forward.
Bids come in, council always opens them.
Yes.
Then it goes to the respective areas for recommendations. And I know the question this time, there was one bid to come in, but there's many, many times only one bid has come in. And almost every single time that we've already sent it out for more bids, guess what? no bids come back in, and I'll use the ball field as an example. That, one bid came in on that. Many times, one bid comes in on many things, and with this, my personal opinion is that we should open that bid tonight because we have an issue that we need to address. We're dumping money into the police station by saying, oh, we only got one bid in, and this is just the site work. It's not even the building. So that, I believe, should be open, should be put out there. And then the next speed for that is once they got a final design agreed on, that has to go out for the second bid for building a building. The two come together, gives you a rough estimate of the total cost of the building. I don't think you're gonna get, we're gonna spend more money to go out. And when I have the next building committee, I'm gonna push to, hopefully we can agree on something and get it out the bid and get it going. Because the longer this takes, the more money we're sinking into that building. And it's a safety issue, so we've got to hit this both in round one. So that's where I stand.
If you don't mind, if I can get my phone. Mr. Walsh, who was the chair, and I'm only relaying this because he could not be here unless I
Can't shoot the messenger?
No,
I came here for the budget part, but.
Oh, okay, I thought you were here for that.
No.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions to the best of my ability.
Mr. Walsh contacted me because he had seen that this was going to be on the agenda. From that, here he is, he asked what it was about, why it was on the agenda, and I briefly explained to him what my concerns were. He suggests, and I will read it verbatim so that everyone knows, and again, I'm just relaying Mr. Walsh because he could not be here. Thank you for the info. Just seemed odd that it was not done before with the other bids, so I figured the town council may be redefining the purpose of the building committee. Either way, my only concern was with the only one bid, once it was opened, it is part of the public record. This makes it very difficult to get other competitive bids if it is re-advertised. So that was his concern. But I agree with you.
Can I address that?
Sure.
We open it, let's just say for the sake of it, we only got one. We met our legal standard of putting it out, addressing people to bid. Now let's play the scenario out. We open this bid up. Let's say it's cost X, Y, Z in price, becomes public. He's concerned about that because it will shine a light on what that bid is, although they could have bid on it. But my opinion is we'll open it. If it goes back out to bid, you think it's going to come in higher? No. So my point is, but open it. They, by their default, didn't send a bid and be competitive, and these guys did. But my point is, we're either going to go with it or we're not going to go with it. But I can pretty much guarantee any bids coming in after we open that are not going to be more than that, but it's going to be less.
Okay.
And if I agree, if I could just talk to the prior council before you people got elected and the prior legal opinion. I've got to disagree with that because there is case law from a Supreme Court case in Rhode Island of 1940, and it's called the delegation or surrender of authority. And what that case says is that a town council cannot, or a city council, cannot surrender their authority or delegate their authority to a committee. So that was improper. You cannot delegate a fundamental power. And your charter indicates, under section 14.02 regarding bidding, all purchases by the town involving any expenditure of $5,000 or more shall be made only after such purchase has been advertised for bids, having been solicited by one or more methods of general circulation in the town, and then, agreed to by the town council or the school committee. So that's your job. So what this case from 1940 says, we're talking about a volunteer fire company. City of Warwick, I guess, decided they set up like a fire board of engineers like you guys have now, and most volunteer communities and fire departments have. They gave it to them they gave them they just said, okay, they sent it out to them, they could solicit bids and then accept bids and then somehow bind the council to have to pay for those. And someone took it to the Supreme Court, still good law, And they said, you cannot do that. That is not your authority. These people are the ones that are charged as they're your elected officials. So just to clarify that for whoever's here from that board, if anyone, is that they cannot do that. So all bids have to come through the town council, I guess with the recommendation from the board. That's how it has to be, for any committee.
I believe it or not, that chairman did that on his own. There was not, I'm on the committee, and there was no discussion about this. That was him.
Wait, what did we do wrong?
You cannot, well, there was a question of whether or not the board can bind the council by signing a contract with a contractor. So say, for instance, you're gonna hire an excavating company or whatever the case is. Architect. Right, so that money's already been approved. But you cannot, so say you're gonna go out and hire a general contractor, you can only get bids. You cannot, yeah, no.
This hasn't been contentious between the committee and the actual council, what power they have and didn't, that's why he looked into this. I always disagreed, as did Denise, that, and I'm on the committee, and I'm also on the council, that the committee did not have the authority to collect the bids, open the bids, and award the bids.
We were okay advertising though, right?
Yes, but again, once you advertise, go out for an RFP, it comes back to the council to open them, send them back for a recommendation, not award it, listen to what you have to say, then we make a decision. And that's how we've always done it. I believe...
Well, we changed that policy a little bit. We open it now at the town hall. We break down
But I think the council member needs to be present, is what I was informed today.
To open the bids?
What's that?
To open the
Well,
bids, the council member.
No, you can be there. I say, you can actually.
You can come anytime.
Right, you're not a building committee, you are part of the town. So what I'm trying to say, and that's always been a contention, and I'm not saying all members, a certain member has vehemently argued and pushed it in the direction that he thought, which this clarifies the direction. And that's why I'm saying, we should open this bid, because it's not gonna cost us money, it may save us money. So, we met our legal part, and my point is to open the bid.
Okay, yeah, one second, so the reason, thank you. The reason I wanted to bring it forward is, going forward, there's going to be more bids.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that it was the council that would be awarding the bids, because it's the council who's gonna have to answer if something goes wrong.
I personally don't foresee any.
But the committee has a
No, I didn't want,
I thought it was wrong.
he mentioned it, but there was one person that said, no, we're doing it this way.
well,
I don't think we're bidding anything else out.
Not anymore. The building has to go
But
up.
I don't think that's part of this.
This is the site work.
Building.
This will be added to that, and you'll have a general portion total.
and I'm not faulting anyone of anything. The solicitor was questioned, and the solicitor at that time said, yes, they have the right to do that. So you did not, you were following solicitor, and that's what happened. So
We
that,
were all present, and I remember saying, I don't think that they have the right to do that.
No.
And I remember I talked to her, and the solicitor at the time did say yes. I said, I don't think so, but.
yeah, so we're just clear that RFPs can go out. We certainly appreciate the work that you put into this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is an excellent, and thank you. But I just wanted to clarify that. I know you want to speak, Kelly.
We spoke with Joe about this, Joe Walsh, about this procedure, and basically, because he's very concerned about the one bid, but I want to point out, it was advertised for 30 days. So, on the state's website, and a local paper, on our website, 30 days is a long time, so, and we traditionally.
Opportunity was there.
Opportunity was more than there for 30 days, and I also stated that, he also stated that I think Brendan had made some personal calls to companies that he did this.
Above and beyond.
So my point to him was, Foster frequently gets one bidder, simply because of its location and the size of our community. The second concern was, what do you hope to gain by another 30 days? So if there's nothing to gain, if there's nobody else that you would like to alert, I mean, oftentimes when we go out to bid, we review vendors who do that similar work, and we personally call them and say that we have a bid out there. He's done that. You advertise for 30 days on the state's website. So anybody, most bigger companies who do this work go to the state to get this type of work. So I really do think you've met all of your due diligence, more than that, and I don't know what the 30 days additional time would gain.
We have far more to gain by opening that bid than we do to lose.
So that's what we recommended, and he was very, very concerned about opening.
So I'm going to ask the solicitor one question. You can think about it while I ask Joe. Can we open it
Yes.
with it the way it's on the agenda?
Well, you're on the agenda for.
It says,
Discussion action.
it
Yes,
says,
right, yeah, so you can, because it says a site bid, and it's a bid for the site, right?
okay. Right.
I have a question too for the solicitor, I guess.
Yep.
Just in the bid specs, it says that the bid will be open on the March 15th, 2018 Police Building Committee meeting at 6:30 by then. I mean, in the specs, it says the committee will be opening. Not that I oppose the opening, but I'm just saying what the spec is.
It said,
He's right, it does say that.
All right, then I guess because it says that, you can't open it tonight.
I was just,
Well, I would point out that.
Table in there somewhere, that sounds like something I would have
because we
written.
looked, but I thought the table said, target date for review of proposals, that is different than opening of a bid. A review of a proposal is different from opening of a bid.
So if we open it, then we send it to them.
It's in there a couple times. It's a
The
board
town
of-
website says something different than what.
That's what I'm asking. What page, because this right here, this table, because we looked at this the other day when we were speaking with Joe, and I said that the target date for review of proposals, it doesn't say that it would be open that day. If it does say that it's going to be open, it has to be open that day.
It says target date of review, and what do you have on
Where
the
is
website?
Yeah, sure.
Make it 7 days.
No, I try not to stand in front of the camera. How do you know that? Okay, thank you. We tried to find
it
it.
was on the website. When I looked at it.
So it says all sealed bids must be delivered to the Forster Town Clerk to be stamped, received at the Forster Town Hall no later than 3 p.m. on Thursday, March 8th. The bids will be opened on March 15th, 2018, at the Police Department Building Committee meeting at 6:30 at the Benjamin Eddy Building.
Well, we're here. It's a different building.
But it's 7 days.
Same
I
building.
understood.
March 15th.
I think
March
it's
15th.
It's today.
It's today.
oh, today, March 15th? I don't know what the date was.
And then 8:15 and we've been here since.
Yeah, right, I have a meeting.
I
I would think that it's March 8th.
So I figured
We're
it
March
all
15th,
works.
this is the Benedict building, we're here.
And it doesn't have to be the police building committee.
Can we just open it?
No, I think.
Right?
We are opening it.
Drum roll.
Fred, nice job on the
But you didn't post, well, you are, it's posted.
Job, Fred.
Be open there, but.
Okay.
Now we know where to go when we have these problems.
This reads a bylaw. There are
There
lots
are
of issues.
several copies. And it's by Design Professionals. Lawrence R. Jeslier Jr., LS, Director of Surveying.
This, I believe, is for the fence, the paving, the parking lot, the water retention, the septic system, the retaining wall.
Site grade for the larger site. It includes the DPW as well, so practically the town, regardless of what
This is not the building structure itself.
It says scope of services to be rendered, is that what I'm looking at?
Read it again.
Scope of services to be rendered.
That'll be, entail what they're gonna be doing.
Well, I'm just looking at the cost. Property survey and Alta NSPS land title survey, $4,280. Topographic survey, $6,360. Other related work is required or requested by our client hourly. But I
That's just
don't
a
know
top.
what
Huh?
I thought you went out for an RFP for.
This is for
Site work.
survey and topography.
No, that was the survey where we were gonna be, the
Yeah,
RFP
this-
was for the survey.
It's a site survey for the new property as well as a topographical map, so they can figure out how much cutting and filling there would be.
And then that still has to go out for an RFP off of that.
That would just be estimated by the civil engineer at this point.
So,
The site work would be probably the architect and the contractor, they would just handle that part of building the building. That's just the top, that was just the.
to get them the information so they can come up with the estimates, through the architect.
Yeah, it was, as I understood, there was no intent to go out, it was just framework bidding, it would all be done in-house, as far as estimating the work.
The DPW was doing the site work.
What's that?
It was hoped that the DPW was the site work.
Who, what, the you?
Okay, he was a pick and shovel.
Okay, well, this wasn't quite what I was expecting.
That's like, this is so they can get that.
So they can get that.
Right.
So we have to pull the trigger on this?
Well, we send it to the committee to review, and
Right.
it's the one bid, and then they come back with a recommendation
Right,
next
so-
meeting. Next meeting,
Right.
Do you guys meet before next week?
No.
I mean, the 27th,
What we're
next
supposed to do
Tuesday.
tonight.
You guys kicked us out of the building, we were supposed to be an hour and a half ago.
The
So
schedule for
I
next
think the
Tuesday.
next meeting is the 27th?
Yes.
Yes. We're meeting the 27th at 6:30.
Right.
I don't
So you
know
can
that.
put it on the
He's
calendar.
still
Yeah.
checking.
So we're putting it on the calendar after the
Correct.
27th.
We'll put it on next Thursday in anticipation they're gonna have
They're gonna
a
be
decision for you.
They're not gonna have,
No.
because we're not
No.
meeting again until
Oh, they're
after.
not,
Waiting
okay.
for Joe.
This is the 15th.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
So it'll be
so
one
then
after.
the following
The
meeting.
April meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Do we get this back in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, you cannot keep that.
So,
And I need.
And I'm going to hand it to
It's all set
the
enough.
town clerk.
Joe Walsh got it.
Yes, I know, he's going to hand it to the town clerk, and then we'll pass it on to Mr. Walsh and the committee. Thank you. And I'm going to add for future agenda item, bid, police. Thank you. So then, I'm going to be getting in touch with Mr. Walsh and let him know that we did open the bid, and it's available to him and the committee. All right, moving on. Police retirement letter. He left? He left?
He's coming back for the budget. He texted me.
Okay. So would you like to read it?
Dated March 11, 2018, to Denise DeFranco, President Town, Forster Town Council. While it has been a pleasure, privilege, and honor to serve the town of Forster since 2013 as Chief of Police, all good things must come to an end. I have decided that it is time to move on to a new chapter in my life and announce that I will be retiring effective April 13, 2018. Most importantly, I wish the police officers and dispatchers of the Forster Police Department the very best. I respect and admire them for risking their lives for their service to the town of Forster. I have been honored to serve the residents of the town of Forster as their police chief. Sincerely, Chief William Zeal. And I will make a motion to accept that with regrets. I've worked with Billy his entire career since I was a much younger age and through his chief's position, and he will be missed.
Second. Really? Any further discussion?
I know it was put out online that he was forced
Right.
Yeah. And that person's not
to
here.
leave, and what Cheryl was referring to earlier in the night, you know, you're gonna put it online, get all the facts, get the right facts.
And I regret, I know, I had a discussion with her last night. I regret accepting this.
Yes.
I do as well, that's for sure. It was very.
Not anything we expected.
No, I was very surprised and. All in favor?
I would like to say something. I wish you were here, but
He can look at it on the video.
He's coming back.
I think Chief Zeal has set the bar very, very high for a police chief to follow in his footsteps. I know the other police chiefs, and I know that none of them went to the extent that he did and that in the example that he set for his men. You're right, and women, right, I keep forgetting, the dispatchers and the other police officer is a woman. He has been an asset to this town in so many ways, and I hope that when we have to decide on a new chief of police, that we are as lucky as we were in getting him to fill his, because I think his shoes will be hard to fill. And I just want him to know that he has my deep and abiding appreciation for all that he has done and the levels that he has set for this town. And I will miss him. Thank you.
And your father was a leading part.
I was going to say that, but
No,
I
I'll
thought
say it
it
for
would
you.
come back at me.
Yep.
My father would be extremely
Yes.
proud, and I told him that tonight. My father would be extremely proud of the way he handled that department and himself. So thank you for that one.
Always professional. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yay. I would say I'm opposed, but I know it's what he wants. Future agenda items?
Might want to add that discussion.
Yep, I have that down. I have Hemlock Ridge, Wright's Oil will be in 60 days. The bid for the police will be in the first week in May, or the first session in April, excuse me.
Denise, can you put down discussion of police chief? Can we ask Chief Seal to sit in with us?
Well, that's going to be on next week's
with him.
Is the how we're going to post and developing an interview committee.
Okay.
Anything else that you want on future agenda items?
Did you just bring some?
I did, yes. 60 days. So.
You got this out.
Post, yeah, that's why I wanted to discuss next week, how we're going to do that. How we're going to do that.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, I already got that in mind.
Because it has to be,
I know, but it's not, yeah, that's, that would be.
All right, so we got all the...
Yeah. Yes, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye, opposed? We will go on.